As far as you have done your research, what would be your prediction of cybersecurity situation in 2021?
We cannot ignore the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. It has impacted the cybersecurity as well as the privacy landscape. So companies have rushed to digitalize their business to put in place work from home or remote work measures, and without necessarily ensuring proper security measures. So this is going to continue as part of our predictions for 2021, because companies, they will look for new ways to conduct business in the post-COVID-19 world. And as we know, business models will have to change, especially traditional businesses, right? So imagine as part of our prediction, imagine what needs to be done to allow access to your company's resources, conducting meetings online, interacting and sharing data with customers and suppliers, performing online transactions, or even designing new business processes. For some of these companies, this could happen without the proper IT infrastructure and the right expertise in place. So these are the companies that are particularly vulnerable to cyber attacks, the usual hacking, ransomware, identity theft, and data leakage. But here's the point that I'd like to highlight. There is also a need for organizations to do contact tracing of infected individuals and also monitor their staff remotely. Because many companies might have excessive or privacy intrusive surveillance measures to ensure staff perform their job duties. So we can expect this to happen in 2021 as we continue the COVID-19, because a lot of companies will fight for their business survival to generate sales. But here's the thing, personal data might also be abused and used without consent of the individuals. If I can explain part of the prediction now, in the context of Thailand, there is now not only a cybersecurity law that governs key infrastructure service providers, but also a data protection law that includes rules that govern how you collect, use, store, and disclose personal data. In fact, the new Personal Data Protection Act of Thailand goes into force next year, as you know, in May. So that means that if organizations suffer a data privacy breach or cyber attack, it is the PDPA that will go after them.
Okay, I see. It's very good that you point out the risk coming up with COVID-19, and especially in regarding with data protection. And what should be the beginning of the infrastructure restructuring of various corporations, public sector, private sector? What should they begin in order to cope with the risk of data protection coming up with COVID-19?
So as you said, there are now two types of threats, security and privacy threats. So I've got three letters to sum this up that organizations should be prepared to do. Is GRC, governance, risk management, and compliance when it comes to relating to personal data. So G, let's talk about G, governance. So all organizations should put in place committees to govern and protect personal data that they hold. Today, there's not a lot of focus on personal data, Second one is risk management. So organizations should also identify all the common privacy and security risks that is unique to your organization. For example, you might have an online portal, a website or application. Do a penetration test. That means you ethically hack into your own software to look for vulnerabilities that a cyber attacker can exploit. Then get your developers to fix the gap. Now, it is obviously expected that all proper security measures and access controls should be put in place by your organization. So that's our risk management. And finally, C is compliance. So I referred to this earlier. In 2021, companies will need to comply with the requirements of the Thai PDPA. That means putting together policies and procedures to protect personal data, not just in their IT infrastructure. Regulators expect your organizations to demonstrate accountability if you get into trouble with the law, right? So finally, let's talk about privacy threats. What organizations can do is to do a risk assessment and identify if your organization is collecting, using, disclosing data excessively, using content without consent, yeah, collecting personal data for one purpose, but you use it for another, for example, or even if you are selling data. So these are new skill sets that organizations need.
Kevin, you must be very much aware of cyber attack in the US, in which more than 40 organizations are seriously impacted from massive cyber attack. So what can we learn? How can ASEAN countries learn from this vulnerability of cyber attack at massive scale?
What ASEAN has done is they put together a digital governance framework for the region. Yeah. Now, here's the important thing. By end of next year, we will expect to see that all the founding members of ASEAN will have a data protection law in place. Currently, only Singapore, Malaysia, and Philippines have the law in force, and the Thai PDPA goes into force next year in May. Yes, Indonesia is also expected to roll out their data protection law next year as well. So you will get into trouble if you don't look at protecting data or prevent your organization from a cyber attack. So to sum up, ASEAN is already doing its part to create a secure online environment.